of, well, they could learn, they have to learn English before they get to the United States. Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Have you honestly never met an immigrant from another country who speaks English outside of Great Britain and Australia? It shows your cosmopolitan bias.
CNN slapped around for grandstanding at the White House, but these stunts are helping just one person. We will tell you who. And
her husband nicely asked her, please stop doing this. It wasn't about political leanings. It's about respecting your partner's
but
wishes.
She's a fan. She's yelling, make America great again in bed at night.
A former NFL cheerleader divorcing her husband because he hates Trump. She speaks out in a Watters World exclusive. Plus,
when immigrants come into the United States, do you think they should have to speak English?
Absolutely. If you're going to come to America, you should speak English. You should be able to get a job.
We head to the Statue of Liberty to quiz folks on immigration. It all begins right now. Welcome to Watters World. I'm Jessie Watters. Exploiting immigration reform for personal gain, that is the subject of tonight's Watters Words. This week, President Trump threw his support behind a plan to scale back legal immigration. Each year, the U.S. gives about 1 million green cards to people. Many of them go to family members of U.S. citizens. Republican senators want to cut the number of green cards issued in half over the next decade, and high-skilled workers, English speakers, and financially stable people would get a leg up. Extended family members would be given less of a priority. So instead of letting in someone's cousin who doesn't have a great education and can't speak English, President Trump wants to bring in educated, skilled English speakers who can contribute to the economy. Common sense, right? Not according to CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta. Just to refresh your memory, this is the guy President Trump kneecapped twice already this year for getting out of line.
President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
So back to this week. During a White House press briefing with White House Senior Policy Advisor Stephen Miller, Jim Acosta decides to question the immigration policy proposal by reciting the Statue of Liberty poem. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Things got ugly for Acosta quickly.
In the 1990s, when it was 500,000 a year, was it violating or not violating the Statue of Liberty law of the land?
Was it violating?
When it was 700,000 a year. No, tell me what years. Tell me what years meet Jim Acosta's definition of the Statue of Liberty poem law of the land. So you're saying 1 million a year is the Statue of Liberty number. 900,000 violates it. 800,000 violates it.
We're in a period of immigration right now. The president wants to build a wall. You want to bring about a sweeping change to
surely, Jim, you don't actually think that a wall affects green card policy. You couldn't possibly believe that, do you? Actually, the notion that you actually think immigration is at a historic law, the foreign-born population in the United States today, Jim,
staff on Monday talking about how border crossings.
Do you really? I want to be serious, Jim. Do you really at CNN not know the difference between green card policy and illegal immigration?
Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Jim, actually, I have to honestly say, I am shocked at your statement that you think that only people from Great Britain and Australia would know English. It's so insulting to millions of hard-working immigrants who do speak English from all over the world. Jim, have you honestly never met an immigrant from another country who speaks English outside of Great Britain and Australia? Is that your personal experience?
Of course there are people who come.
But that's not what you said, and it shows your cosmopolitan bias. And I just want to say,
it sounds like you're trying to engineer the racial and ethnic flow of people into this country.
Jim, that is one of the most outrageous, insulting, ignorant, and foolish things you've ever said. And for you, that's still a really the notion that you think that this is a racist bill is so wrong and so insulting.
Wow, Jim really took one on the chin. Earth to Acosta. The United States has the largest immigrant population in the world, and we're home to 20% of all of the world's immigrants. Bringing in low-skilled, non-English-speaking immigrants depresses wages for American workers here and explodes the welfare state. This doesn't put America first. Apparently, Acosta wants to put himself first. He tried to take a little victory lap after getting mauled by Miller. Here's what he said on the Situation Room.
I think at times this White House has an unhealthy fixation on what I call the 3 M's, the Mexicans, the Muslims, and the media. Their policies tend to be crafted around bashing one of those 3 groups, and we just see it time and again.
Now, I don't know Acosta personally. He's probably a decent guy, but he's a hot dog now. He's crossed the line between being an objective White House reporter to a self-serving political pundit advocating his own agenda. Now, there's room for that on cable news, but not in the White House press room. And that's tonight's Watters Words. We're used to the mainstream media getting it wrong on President Trump, as well as the pollsters. The latest numbers show him with an all-time low approval rating. But then you look at the rally he had this week, and it reminded why he got elected.
I didn't come to Washington for me. I came to Washington for all of you. That I can tell you. Your dreams are my dreams. Your hopes are my hopes. And your future is what I'm fighting for each and every day. The Russia story is a total fabrication. It's just an excuse for the greatest loss in the history of American politics. That's all it is. What the prosecutors should be looking at are Hillary Clinton's 33,000 deleted emails. Democrat lawmakers will have to decide. They can continue their obsession with the Russian hoax, or they can serve the interests of the American people. Try winning at the voter booth. Try winning at the voter booth. Not going to be easy, but that's the way you're supposed to do it. Most people know there were no Russians in our campaign. There never were. We didn't win because of Russia. We won because of you. Have you seen any Russians in West Virginia or Ohio or Pennsylvania? Are there any Russians here tonight? Any Russians?
So the president's working class base eating that up. Does that show what real Americans are feeling? So joining me now for a Beltway battle, Democratic consultant Marjorie Clifton and Bree Payton, staff writer at The Federalist. So, Bree, when you look at that video and you see President Trump just swimming out there with that beautiful crowd, he has a very strong bond with his army of supporters, and the media can't do anything about that bond, and it just drives them crazy.
Yeah, I mean, all throughout the election, all of their coverage said, America, you will vote for Hillary Clinton and she will win. And America said no, and now I think they're upset about it and they're trying to take it out on Americans, right? And we've seen a lot of snotty attitude, a lot of snotty remarks coming from reporters. I mean, just earlier this week, the Boston Globe did this story where they lamented the fact that some of the best viewing spots for the solar eclipse just happened to be in areas that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. I mean, that's totally insane, right? Being upset that people who voted for Donald Trump will happen to live in areas where they're going to get to see a solar eclipse. I mean, they are stretching so hard in order to insult these people, right? And I think it's because they're a little bit salty about what happened.
No, they're salty, and like you said, they're very snotty. Speaking of snotty reporters, Marjorie, I want to call your attention to a guy named Stuart Rothenberg. He's kind of a Beltway establishment pollster. He said this when he was talking about, President Trump wants to cut legal immigration by half and bring in English-speaking immigrants. He said lots of people in West Virginia can't support themselves and speak English, and then doubled down when he was called out on it, and it said, of course they're hardworking, they mean well, just close-minded, provincial, angry, and easily misled. My wife's dad was a coal miner in Pennsylvania. I mean, how out of touch is that from a Beltway guy? And then throwing in my wife's dad was a coal miner? That's like saying I'm not racist, my dentist is black. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it sounds like on both sides of the aisle there are a lot of people really just focused on themselves and not really a little tone deaf to what they're saying, because what I'm hearing in all of these different exchanges is a lot of name calling, a lot of yelling, and a lot of things that are turning a lot of Americans off to politics right now. And what we know to be true is that in terms of the media, it's been somewhat redefined in that everyone finds media sources and outlets that echo the things they already believe. Their belief systems are shaped by the media, whether it leans left or whether it leans right. But all in all, we're not thinking about the whole picture. We're making issues very black and white, which they're not.
Well,
things
I don't
like
think
Russia and things like immigration.
Tune in to CNN because they're tuning into a place where they get something that they already believe. Because if they already believe that, then Trump wouldn't have won the election. Marjorie, let me tell you this. The economy last month created 100,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs created. The GDP number was very strong. There's been a lot of announcements by companies about creating jobs and manufacturing plants in the United States. Is that the winning that's being overlooked by the mainstream media?
Well, we haven't really seen any policies passed in the new administration. Again, I don't see that as winning on anyone's part.
But you don't see job creation as winning?
And the job creation numbers have been steadily about in that same range for the past 5 years, and
well,
those are very comfortable. And I think
President
in terms
Trump's
of how
already created 1 million jobs since he's been elected. Consumer confidence is at a 16-year high. Stock market's at an all-time high.
Very.
I mean, you can't say that came out of nowhere. You can't say that came out of nowhere. Bree, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I was just going to say, something that is unique and interesting about the Trump administration is that he doesn't necessarily have to do concrete things like legislation in order to get results. And we're seeing this with the border, right? Not a single brick of the wall has been set that he has promised us.
That's true.
And yet illegal border crossings are down
way
53%.
Exactly,
right.
just based on rhetoric and enforcement alone. Well, we would like to see a few legislative accomplishments. Maybe repeal or replace Obamacare and tax relief. Ladies, I got to run. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another week, another leak. Is it time to lock up these traitors? Watters World investigates. And later, I take the immigration debate to Lady Liberty. When people do come into this country, do you think we should just let anybody in, or we should have some qualifications about who we bring in?
I think you should have a really good immigration process.
The Trump administration has had an average of almost a leak a day since he's been in office. Now the nation's top cop says it's time to lock up the leakers, and the media better watch out too.
One of the things we are doing is reviewing policies affecting media subpoenas. We respect the important role that the press plays and will give them respect, but it is not unlimited. They cannot place lives at risk with impunity. We must balance the press's role with protecting our national security and the lives of those who serve in the intelligence community, the armed forces, and all law-abiding Americans.
Joining me now, Fox News contributor and Republican strategist Mercedes Schlapp. So Mercedes, hello. I believe the leakers and the media are colluding to overthrow the will of the people. What do you think we should do about this?
That's strong, Jesse.
It's true.
Very powerful. I think that it's very clear that the Justice Department is taking very important steps in stopping this culture of the leaks. It is incredibly problematic. It doesn't allow a government to run effectively. And what's happened is that these individuals who are leaking this unauthorized disclosure of classified information, they're on a moral crusade.
Yeah.
They want to ensure that nothing gets done, or whatever is happening for the president, that they're able to impede any progress.
Yeah, they're on a moral crusade, and they think they're above the law, which they're absolutely not. And now Jeff Sessions says not only are we going to throw the book at the leakers, we're going to look at some of these journalists, too, who are feeding off of these leaks. Now, can't they just say, we're going to start looking at phone records, we're going to start looking at email records, we're going to start polygraphing people That's the next step, right?
I mean, the investigation will include looking into the emails, looking into the phone records. You know, this is where journalists get nervous. I mean, we've seen the case where you've had journalists go to jail because they don't want to give up a source, for example. So in this case, you're going to find maybe more of an increased tension between some of these news organizations and the government. But there is this reality that exists. Remember that journalists, for the most part, they're the ones that have to go out and basically say and ask the question, if I release this information, if I publish this information, what does this mean in terms of affecting the national security? So that's how the news organizations work normally in terms of deciding whether they're going to allow this information to be go public.
And I think decent organizations weigh whether or not they're really going to jeopardize national security and whether or not the American public deserves to know what they believe is the truth. But they keep erring on the other side. They never err, as far as I can tell, on the side of protecting national security, because I don't think the media or the Democrats want the leaks to stop.
No, absolutely not. First of all, reporters, they love this idea that they're able to get this information from these sources, particularly these leaks that have to deal with classified information. But here's the deal. Those individuals who are the leakers themselves, there's a price to pay. It's a criminal activity. And it's something that what we've seen under President Trump, I mean, you're talking about, you've seen, as you mentioned, 62 leaks that we've seen in the first 5 months under President Trump. President Obama was only 8 leaks.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just, it's very telling of where
it's a whole
these leakers want to
new environment, and Trump better get tough or else the swamp's going to destroy him. Thanks, Mercedes.
Great to see you.
It's the president's favorite nickname.
She's a hopeless case. I call her Pocahontas, and that's an insult to Pocahontas.
Up next, the real Indian challenging Elizabeth Warren's Senate seat and the surprise DNA results he'll reveal right here. Then, the former Miami Dolphins cheerleader divorcing her husband over her support for our president. Speaks out for the first time here on Watters World.
She's a hopeless case. I call her Pocahontas, and that's an insult to Pocahontas.
No, sir. No, thank you. No, ma'am. Perhaps, ma'am. It may be Pocahontas. Remember that. And she is not big for the NRA, that I can tell you.
Pocahontas is not happy. She's not happy. She's the worst.
Elizabeth Warren earning that nickname after a false claim to Native American heritage. And it's not going anywhere. Her opponent in the Massachusetts Senate race is now using it.
I think only a real Indian can defeat the fake Indian.
MIT grad and entrepreneur Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai even sent Warren a DNA kit, which she returned. He tweeted, "I am deeply saddened Senator Warren refused my thoughtful, gift-wrapped birthday gift, the 23andMe DNA test kit. Most unfortunate, hashtag fake Indian." Dr. Shiva joins me now. So you're a real Indian, and you're running against a so-called fake Indian. Do you think that's resonating among the folks of Massachusetts?
It's resonating big time, and it's resonating across all demographics, Jesse, not only everyday people, but also people who you'd think would not find it funny, the so-called educated elite. They also can't stop cracking up.
They're laughing about this in Cambridge, is that true?
They are. And I think the reason is, there's a famous philosopher said when someone laughs at a joke, it's hitting something very deep in the unconscious. What it's really hitting is this hypocrisy that Elizabeth Warren is about.
Right, because what she did is that she tried to get a teaching gig at Harvard, and on her application she said she was a minority. I mean, I'm looking at her here. She's blonde hair, maybe blue eyes, very pale skin. She claimed she was Native American, and that's what kind of got her the gig in Harvard. And real Native Americans who may have gotten that teaching position were shut out.
Exactly. So what you see is someone wanting to cut in line. And it's the same policy that she does, right, saying that immigrants can cut in line. I know you were talking earlier, my parents came here. They were some of the best parts, best part of India that was allowed into America. I had to wait about a year with my mom, and my dad came first, so we had to wait in line.
Right.
But Elizabeth Warren believes that she doesn't need to wait in line, so she can cut ahead, and she frankly took another probably qualified person's job.
And you wanted to come on here and reveal the results of your DNA test.
Yeah.
And we're going to show the results to the audience right here. Dr. Shiva's DNA results. Wow, look at that. 0.1% Native American. You're actually more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
I'm a little feather and a lot of dot, if you want to put it that way. You know, so I'm a real Indian against a fake Indian.
All right. Well, she's not going to probably take your DNA test, but we have the results there so everybody can make up their mind. Now, she's kind of a hypocrite in a number of other ways. You know, she's bashing Wall Street, but she's out there on the vineyard raising money by Wall Street executives. She's, you know, flip-flopped on single payer. She's always talking about police brutality. She never wants to talk about the violence on the South side. This is not just lying about your heritage. It's, you know, a whole host of other things she's hypocritical about.
Yeah, I mean, what you have is you have a person, when we say fake Indian, it also goes to something deeper, Jesse. She's a fake fighter. You know, she talks about fighting for the small guys, but she's actually helped big banks. She's actually destroyed 1,200 community banks. Well, she talks about helping small business, but she's actually destroyed a lot of small businesses.
Well, you're going to, if you get the nomination, you're going to have to debate her, and that's going to be a very interesting showdown.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse.
All right, coming up, all you wanted to know about my presidential ambitions and more in this week's installment of Ask Watters. First, a brutal rape by an illegal immigrant. Not enough for one sanctuary city to change its policy. A resident here to defend that next.
We want everybody here to be happy and feel safe. How can we guarantee that if we don't know anything about people living in our midst?
Now back to Watters World.
We are taking the fight to the drug smugglers, human traffickers, and the vile criminal cartels like MS-13 who are being thrown out of our country so quickly you can't even count. We are liberating American communities from these vicious, violent gangs.
That was President Trump at his big rally this week, hitting one of the topics that voters love to hear him talking about, kicking out the bad hombres. But in Burien, Washington, a sanctuary city, it was standing room only as they debated what to do about illegal immigrants. This after an illegal immigrant was just arrested for brutally raping a 19-year-old, breaking her bones. Then the same day, he allegedly molested a 14-year-old. So what's the resistance? Cue the city council debating what a sanctuary city even is.
What this ordinance 651 is more of a safe city ordinance. I don't know what sanctuary city means. I don't think there's a definition.
So when we react to the people's voice, whether it be an initiative petition and the amount of signatures that are required, and by law, reacting in a proper way.
Councilmember Wagner just said the fairest way to get the vote of the people is an election. She's wrong. We all know that.
Okay. I'm joined now by two people who were there. Pedro Oguin, who is in favor of the sanctuary city status, and Craig Keller, who is leading the charge to repeal it. So, Pedro, let me start with you. You're chanting something, whose streets, our streets, whose streets, our streets. Whose streets are theirs?
In terms of whose streets are they, I think they belong to everybody.
Okay, everybody, including illegal immigrants?
Everybody that's a resident of Burien.
Okay, well, what's a resident? Is an illegal immigrant in European a resident of Burien, Washington?
I'm not sure that Burien is immigration or ICE or Homeland Security. I think in terms of our city, anybody that lives in the city is a resident of the city.
Okay, well, there's a difference between residing somewhere and being a legal resident. If you're an illegal immigrant, especially if you're a criminal illegal immigrant, you're not really a resident because you don't belong there. Let me talk to you, Craig. The city, after seeing this crime spree, that this illegal alien went on, allegedly raping a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old, shattering bones. How is the city not changing the sanctuary city status? It seems like common sense to me.
There's a 4-vote majority on the Burien Council now that subjected the city to this sanctuary ordinance. And they're not inclined at this point to even give the citizens a vote to free themselves from this curse. But that's
so
going to happen
they're not
through
allowed to, the citizens aren't allowed to vote on whether or not they want the city to be a sanctuary city?
Those 4-vote members have denied and have violated state law by denying that this question go to the ballot. We're pursuing it through court at the ballot. You're asking why should this even be the case? It's the case because, like my world here in Seattle, it's a sanctuary. It's been made a sanctuary. It's been made a racketeer influence and corrupt organization by Democrat politicians that rely upon funding and votes and campaign support from labor organizations who are riddled with illegal aliens. It's a total sellout to the American labor movement, and that's really the undercurrent of what's happening here. In Burien, this is just a symptom of continuing ongoing lawless activity by those forces so that they can gain political power, enter the city council there and keep doing their work.
Pedro, please respond to what Craig just said there. I mean, it is encouraging lawlessness when you don't enforce the law and you allow criminal illegal aliens to run wild. You're okay with lawlessness in your own community?
I think Mr. Keller needs to go do a little bit of research into our community. Clearly, he's not from Burien, but that's okay. We're a welcoming city. He can move in whenever he wants to. That said,
just like you did.
We have a. Thank you. So what we have in Burien and in Greater King County is a zero tolerance for violent crimes. And so there is no safe haven for these kind of crimes, irrespective whether the person has legal status or not.
Okay, so you're saying that if a legal alien is charged with a crime, you're saying that ICE is notified and a detainer can get slapped on him?
From my understanding, and of course Mr. Keller, since he knows so much about policy, maybe he can correct me, but what we have for King County sheriffs who we subcontract our policing to, they've got a zero tolerance, and so that information would get transferred over to the local ICE agency.
Okay, so I don't even know if you guys know if you're a sanctuary city or not, but apparently you're just as confused as the city council members. But guys, we got to run because we got to pay some bills, but thank you guys very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesse.
Speaking of immigration, this week the White House unveiled changes to legal immigration policy. It cuts green cards in half to $500,000 a year, eliminates preferences for extended family members, and gives priority to people with higher education and English speakers that can contribute to the workforce. The left hated it, but I wanted to find out what the people thought. So I headed to the Statue of Liberty to find out. When immigrants come into the United States, do you think they should have to speak English?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because this is America.
I believe they should be able to speak a little English so they can have knowledge and know what's going on in the world.
You know, the way I look at it is this. If I'm going into a foreign country and I'm going to be there for a certain period of time, you better believe I'm going to learn the language.
Do you know how to speak English?
Yes, I'm speaking English right now.
When you came into America from Bangladesh, did you know how to speak any English?
A little bit.
Did you learn English right away?
Yeah.
Is it easy to master the English language?
Yeah.
When people do come into this country, do you think we should just let anybody here in, or we should have some qualifications about who we bring in?
I think you should have a really good immigration process. I don't have a problem with immigrants. Come on in, get a job, work with us. We're all good. But I'm just saying, we need to focus on our folks that are here paying taxes and been here our entire life.
I don't think we should let anybody into America because you don't know what their background is. You don't know what they could come and bring into our country. I think we should have a background check.
Do you think it's mean and racist to control your immigration policy?
No. I think if it's labeled as racist, it's just another way for the liberal media to make us all look horrible when we just want what's best for America.
We are a land of immigrants. We have let a lot of immigrants into this country, but I think you also have to find the right balance of protecting your own.
How do you like America so far?
America is great. I love America. I have different opportunities. I went to college here, so I get to graduate with my bachelor's, and it's very diverse. So America is great.
What do you think the Statue of Liberty over there means?
I think it's a symbol for the greatest place on earth.
What do you think about CNN's Jim Acosta?
I don't watch the Clinton News Network.
That's what it is.
Do you know who Jim Acosta is from CNN?
I saw him get embarrassed a little bit on the news.
Jim, have you honestly never met an immigrant from another country who speaks English outside of Great Britain and Australia? Is that your personal experience?
Of course there are people who come.
But that's not what you said, and it shows your cosmopolitan bias.
What do you think about Donald Trump?
Okay.
Good guy?
Yeah, okay, he's good.
He's good?
Yeah.
Everybody loves me. Do you know who I am?
No, I don't know who you are. My husband does. He said Waterworld. Whoop, whoop. Yes!
Still ahead, how the 2016 presidential election ruined a Florida power couple's marriage. Now the former NFL cheerleader speaking out for the first time. And Al Gore getting burned big time by his own green greed. Time now for some real news, and this week I'm joined by Watters World favorites, video bloggers and Trump supporters, Diamond and Silk. So nice to have you guys here in studio this time.
Wow. Oh, God. Thank you for having us. It's amazing.
So How does it feel to be in Watters World in the flesh?
Oh, it feels good. We love it.
All right, take a few laps. Now, I want to start you guys off with Jeff Sessions, AG, wants to really crack down on these leakers. Some of these people are probably going to face some stiff penalties. Now, if you guys were attorney generals, what would you guys like to see happen to these leakers?
We would like to see them go straight to jail.
Straight.
Not
Don't
only,
pass go, go directly to jail.
Go directly to jail.
That's
and
right.
not only the leakers, but get the people that's accessories to the leakers.
The press.
Come on. That's right. That's right. Because it's a crime to leak out classified information. That's
It is. And then so you throw the press in prison too.
Well, here's the deal. The press should not be committing a crime with the criminal. That's leaking out the information.
Accessories.
That's accessories.
All right, you guys are accessorizing very nicely, I might add, too.
Thank you.
All right, we're not going to lock you up, though, for that.
Okay.
All right, now, President Trump in West Virginia the other day and really lit it up. This is what he said about the Russian hoax. Roll the tape.
We didn't win because of Russia. We won because of you. Have you seen any Russians in West Virginia or Ohio or Pennsylvania? Are there any Russians here tonight? Any Russians?
So you guys are from North Carolina. Have you ever seen any Russians running around doing silly things in North Carolina?
No, absolutely not. And it's a real slap in the American people's face to say Russia, Russia, Russia. Or maybe the media is getting it mixed up when we rush to the polls.
That's right. I like what you did there.
President Trump.
So you feel the president, nothing to see here, there's no problem there, because the press, they're making him out to be a traitor.
There's no evidence. This is a witch hunt.
Witch hunt.
Straight witch hunt.
Okay, so nothing's going to... And your prediction on this Mueller investigation, everything going to be okay, or are we going to see some problems?
I really wish the president would fire Mueller.
Yes, fire him.
Fire him. Because that's Comey's homie. That's right. Fire him immediately.
Fire Comey's homie.
Fire him.
That could get Trump in even more trouble, though. So you guys think that's a good idea?
Well, how will it get him in more trouble? Listen, they are about to pull a fast one, a witch hunt on him. They doing like some of these... We have some nasty prosecutors that do stuff like this.
That's true.
And so we got to stop this here. Do not do this to our president, and do not try to undermine this administration with Russia.
Fire Comey's homie. You heard it here first. Al Gore, you know, he's a green guy, but it turns out not so green. They did a little study on Gore's palatial estate. Turns out Al Gore's Nashville residence, 10,000 square foot mansion, uses 21 times more energy a year than the typical U.S. home. So do as I say, not as I do. Al Gore, any response to Al.
Sound like he's a hypocrite.
Hypocrite, yeah.
Sound like he's being very hypocritical. He
Yeah.
talks about all of this stuff, but why is he using so much energy? And another thing, how come Al Gore went into the White House, middle class, and now he's 50 rich?
Yeah,
What's
he's
going on
he's
here?
worth a $200 to $300 million. That's a lot of green.
That's a lot of green.
And that's why he can use up all of that energy and all of that stuff like
All right.
that.
You guys don't have solar panels on your home, do you?
No.
Okay, just wanted to check on that.
No, we don't.
Thank you guys very much. You guys both look very carbon neutral. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next, the Trump divorce defense. Why one woman says her selfies with the president and first lady ruined her marriage. She joins me next. As one of the main reasons for the split, Lynn and Dave Ehrenberg married in May 2015, but after 2 years of marriage came a divisive presidential election. The former Miami Dolphins cheerleader, a staunch Republican, says she filed for divorce from her husband, a Democratic state attorney for Palm Beach County, after being pressured by his supporters to tone down her political views. Lynn Ehrenberg joins me now. So, Lynn, when you married your husband, you knew he was a Democrat and he knew you were a Republican, right?
That's correct.
Okay, now, were you like a rabid Republican? Were you going to rallies every weekend, or are you just a normal political person?
I was into politics, but it wasn't my career like it was his.
Okay.
But we both consider ourselves moderate.
Okay, so you're both moderates on your respective parties. So Trump comes along, and you're getting pumped up because you support the president. And when he was running, you supported his candidacy. Did that start to affect the relationship when Trump got the nomination?
Oh, yeah, because my ex-husband-to-be and his support never expected Trump to last that long. So every time he'd make it through the next hurdle, they would get more upset, and I was the bad guy because I supported him.
Okay, so how would he get upset? Would he get upset with you? Would you guys argue at night, or was it more just about his political campaign and how it affected that?
It was more about the politics and his base of supporters. At home, we were fine. We didn't really even talk about it. But it was more like the backlash he was getting from his far-left base.
Okay, so he's a Democratic politician in Florida, and his supporters and his political team hated the fact that the wife of their guy was a Trump supporter.
Correct. And there was nobody else. There are a lot of Democrats around here. So I was like the only Republican around.
So what were the political people telling you to do? Were they like, stop wearing the Make America Great Again hats? Or what were they saying?
Oh, if I had done that, that would have caused real uproar. No, they just didn't want me to like things on Facebook. They'd tell me to take pictures down or post pictures later if we'd go to Mar-a-Lago. They wouldn't want me to post pictures or say we're there.
Oh, wait, so you would actually go to Mar-a-Lago, the president's summer home, as they say, and the candidates' supporters hated that. That was like enemy territory.
They would be outside. Yes, they'd be outside marching and rioting.
All right, so when did it come to a head? When was it like, listen, this isn't working. My love for Trump is getting into between the marriage, and you're obviously not going to change. What happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, the president was only in office. I filed for divorce on February 24th, so he wasn't in office long, and then it was just the conflict was too much. It was basically the straw that broke the camel's back.
Wow. And you told the judge that Trump got in between the marriage?
Yeah, basically. I mean, Trump...
Does Trump know that he split you guys up?
He's probably heard by now, but I don't know if he's really, I don't know.
Well, he is a Watters World fan. All right. But he's probably watching on Air Force One or something like that. Well, listen, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I guess it wasn't meant to be. And, keep making America great again, I guess. Lynn, thank you very much.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Up next, what are my political ambitions? Answers up next in Ask Watters. 2024. Yeah, no problem. Just send me a check. Next, Lexi says, what song do you think Trump sings in the shower? The segment's called Ask Watters, not Ask Melania. And finally, Bree tweets, what's the point of your show? Yeah, the producers are trying to figure that one out too. That's all for tonight. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, I'm Watters, and this is my world.